Okay, so the first thing I'm going to say, if you're planning on watching this video, you might want to get comfy and you might want to grab some popcorn because this might be a long one. This game was wild today. I don't even know where to begin. Yes, the score does tell some of the story, but it's not everything. Believe me, it's not everything. There was something that happened in this game that I legit don't think I've ever seen in my life. So we'll get into that as I get into my notes. So I'm going to try to make this one as short as I can, but there was a lot of stuff that happened today. So let's just go ahead and dive right into it, shall we? So, Saturday, December 20th, the Sens played their 34th game of the season against the Chicago Blackhawks. It was an afternoon game. It was a 3 o'clock p.m. Eastern start time in Ottawa. So this was the second meeting of the season between these two teams. These two teams met back on October 28th in Chicago, and Chicago won that game by a score of 7-3. So these two teams combined for 20 goals in 2 games this season. Just insane. And they will not meet again until next season, so that's just insane. A couple of wild games between these two teams this year. So, starting goalies were Levi Merilainen for the Sens and Arvid Soderblom for the Blackhawks. So the Sens were 16-13-4 coming into today, 7-6-2 at home, now make it 8-6-2 at home. And the Blackhawks were 13-15-6 coming in, 6-9-3 on the road. And this was a team that has been struggling. And we'll get into my exact thoughts on the game as I go through my notes. A couple of big lineup notes though. Thomas Chabot is back for the Sens. It's his first game in what feels like forever, and he made a difference tonight. So very good to have him back. So because he was back in the lineup, Matt and Paula was a healthy scratch tonight, or today. And of course, the biggest lineup note for both teams, Connor Bedard did not play tonight. He is still hurt. So that's a huge loss for Chicago. The team is just completely different without him. You can tell when you watch them play. So, getting into the way like how I feel about the game. So they win 6-4, and I didn't love the way I didn't love how close it was, because like the Sens would score, Chicago would score, tied up. Sens would score, Chicago would tied up, and they just kept going back and forth. I didn't love how close it was, to be honest. Of course, a win is a win, right? But at the end of the day, they do get the win, and this is a team that you had to beat, and they did. Maybe not the prettiest victory, but hey, a win is a win, right? Alright, so let's go ahead and get into the stats and go through my insane amount of notes for today's game because there is a lot of stuff that happened, man. So we're not going to waste any time. So the Sens win by a score of 6-4 over the Blackhawks, and they are now 17-13-4 on the season. So now they've technically won half of their games. So there's that. Blackhawks are now 13-16-6. So we get into the stats. The shots 40-24. I believe that is the second most shots the Sens have had in a game. I think the most they had was the game against St. Louis, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, 40 shots for the Sens, just insane. Face-off dot, they dominate once again, 59.7% compared to 40.3% for the Blackhawks. And the power plays, oh man. So Chicago was 1 for 3, Ottawa was 1 for 5, and God, the penalties, there was just so much that happened. But they do score once on the power play, so it's like, oh, that's unusual. They scored, we'll get into it more as I go through my notes, but they scored on the power play, they scored at even strength, and they even scored a shorty. So, just a wild game today, man. Penalty minutes 26-10 in favor of the Sens having the fewest. Hits were 29-21 in favor of the Sens. Block shots 17-8 in favor of the Blackhawks. And giveaways 15-7 with the Sens having the fewest. And the takeaways were tied 5-5. I'm just double checking, making sure the stats are correct. Looks like they are, because I know they like to update things later on. So as mentioned, these two teams will not meet again this season. This was the second and final meeting, and what a psychotic game, dude. Like, oh man. We're just going to go through my notes because there is a lot. I'm going to try and make this as short as I can. Okay, there's going to be a random cut right there. Don't mind that. Alright, so let's go ahead and get into my notes here because there is a lot of stuff we have to talk about. So, starting off the game here, Shabbat back in the lineup tonight. He would gain the zone. He would feed it across to Stutzla. This guy again. Yes, I am wearing this jersey. And again, he had a big game. So Stutzla would score. He would score very early in the game. But this would get challenged for goalie interference. Now, this one initially, when I saw it, this one looked pretty obvious. So Zetterlund was clearly preventing Soderblom from making the save. And I have this in my notes. Like, it looks pretty obvious. I didn't think this was going to count. And surely enough, it did not count. They do waive this off for goalie interference. I'll be saying that again later on, just a heads up. So Spence would have a shot that was deflected into the face of Nazar, and he was cut pretty badly, and Nazar would not end up returning. So right away, like, this is looking really good for the Sens. Again, I really hope Nazar is okay, obviously, but this team is already without Bedard, and now they're without Nazar, arguably their two top forwards, two top players, and they're both out. So, big advantage for the Sens here, right? They already scored, but it was waved off. Again, it was an easy call. I knew this one wasn't going to count. So then Jensen would make a nice move around a defender, and he would get a shot away. That was stopped by Soderblom. So then the puck would get sent to the net by Clevin, and this would deflect off a Hawk player, and it would go in. So bit of a fluky goal, bit of a fortunate bounce. So Tyler Clevin would score his first goal of the season, 6:36 into the first period. And this guy, number 18, Stutzla, drawing the assist, and the Sens go up 1-0. Now, this goal would also get reviewed for goalie interference. I am not making this up. Nope. We are 6.5 minutes into the game, and we have had 2 goalie interference reviews. Yep. But this one would count. Now, on this one here, so Tkachuk, I thought Tkachuk was blocking Soderblom for making the save from getting across. I did not think this one was going to count. So obviously, I don't blame Chicago for challenging this one, but this one does end up standing. I was kind of shocked. I thought they would wave this off too, but this is crazy. We are minutes into the game and we have seen 2 goalie interference reviews, but this one does count. So, of course, because Chicago lost the challenge, the Sens to go to the power play. So Tkachuk would get a good look early on the power play, but Chicago would end up killing this off. The Sens do not score on this one. So Spence would turn it over to Chicago. Kind of a bad turnover here from Spence. They would go back the other way, and Marilina makes a huge glove save here. So Stutzla and Grzelcyk would come together, and they would get into a scrum. Stutzla gets a roughing call, but Grzelcyk would get called for double minor high sticking. So because of that, because it was a double minor, the Sens would go back to the power play again. So the Sens would threaten. They would not score on this power play either. And then shortly after that ended, Ottawa gets called for too many men. Actually, no, this was right before the power play ended. Yes. So, yeah, okay. I'm looking at my notes here. There's so much that happened today. So, yeah, this was a weird and strange bad timing for this penalty because the puck is in Ottawa's zone while they're on the power play, and they take a too many men penalty. It's like, just, what are we doing? So, yeah, it's just very, very weird timing. So, Chicago goes to the power play. Not a full 2 minutes, but almost a full 2-minute power play. So they do get a couple shots on this power play, but they do not score. The Sens would kill it off. And then Chicago would get called for cross-checking. So Ottawa goes back to the power play. This is their 3rd power play of the first period. So Batherson would make a strong play to the net, and that was stopped. And that's pretty much it for my notes for the first period. The first period was not too crazy. Of course, the two goalie interference reviews, that's kind of nuts. You don't see that very often, especially within the span of 6 minutes. So we do end the first period. The shots were 12-8 for Ottawa in that period, and they're up 1-0. So I'm feeling pretty good. Um, not too comfortable because, 1 goal lead, you never want to feel too comfy with a 1 goal lead. And it's still close, right? Still very close. So we roll on to the second period, and this is where, okay, I just want to say something right now. So when I take my notes for games, I do it on my phone, right? I do it on Notepad on my phone. And then what I'll do is I'll take the screenshots of the notes and I'll read them off the computer. So usually I have 1 or 2 like screenshots for each period. For this second period, I have 3 screenshots, which is just, it's unheard of. So a lot of stuff happened in the second period, so get comfy with this for this. So Ottawa would start the period with 128 of power play time. So Zetterlund would make a strong play to the net, and that was stopped. The Sens did not score on this power play either, but they do get 2 shots. But at this point, they're 0 for 3 on the power play, so I'm like, okay, it's going to be one of those games where they don't score on the power play, but they score even strength, with which they already have. And it didn't feel good at this point because like they're getting they're getting their chances, but they're not scoring. And of course, there was an outlet pass by Chicago to Mikheyev, and Mikheyev can fly, by the way. He would just go right past Jensen, making it look easy, and he would score to tie the game. So, Ilya Mikheyev scoring at the 1:53 mark of the second period. Kaiser and Green drawing the assist there. That would tie the game at 1. And I'm not feeling great at this point because, again, the Sens are getting all these power play chances. They're not scoring. And now the game is tied. So, shortly after that goal, Teravainen would have some space. He would get a good shot that was stopped. And I put this in my notes. Second period struggles again because this team has had issues in the second period recently. So I'm like, okay, here we go again. So there was a Kachuk one-timer that was stopped. That was a good save by Soderblom there. There was a big hit by Zub on Dickinson. This game got pretty physical at points in the game. So Clevin would take a hard hit and he would go to the dressing room. He would not return. So that's not good news for the Sens. They just got Shabbat back and now Clevin is out. I don't know the situation of Clevin. I don't know how severe it is. I don't know if he's going to be out. So really hoping he's okay because they just got Shabbat back. They don't want to lose somebody else now. So, and so right here, Kenzie Lalonde, the commentator, she mentions that Nazar will not return for the Blackhawks, which I did mention earlier. So, again, big loss for Chicago. Really hoping that Nazar is okay as well. But yeah, a couple of guys leaving the game and not returning. So, again, injuries are just crazy in the league this year. But Dylan Cousins would make a strong play to the net, and the puck goes in. But guess what? Guess what happens here? Can you guess what happens here? This would get waved off for goalie interference again. I am not even kidding. I am not making this up. 3 times in this game. We are not even halfway through the game. We have seen 3 goalie interference, like 3 goals waved off because of goalie interference. I don't think I've ever seen that before. Now this is where it gets really weird. So this is the 3rd time it's happened, right? So if you would have shown all 3 of these goals to me and asked me which one do you think has the higher chance of counting, I would say this one, right? But here's where it gets weird. So it gets waved off, right? So the Sens would challenge this for no goalie interference. I thought this one was going to count. I was like, hey, if you show me all 3 of these goals, I think this one probably has the best chance of standing. So here's what happens. I thought I was losing my mind. So the ref goes to center ice, and they make the announcement, and they say the goal counts. They say it's a good goal. He points to center ice. But he made a mistake. So he's like, hold on, hold on, hold on. And they come back, they make another announcement, and they say that it doesn't count. I'm like, what is going on today? What is going on in this game? Like, just bizarre. Like, what's more bizarre? Three goalie interference calls on goals, or the ref saying that the goal counts, but then saying it doesn't count. Like, what? I don't know. There was so much happening in this game. It's like the refs are maybe, I mean, I don't know. Who knows, right? But I think that one should have counted personally. Um, at the end of the day, I guess it kind of evens up because I think the second one probably shouldn't have counted, but they counted that one. Then they don't allow the third one, but I think that one should have counted. So I guess it evens out, right? That's how I looked at it. But still, there's a lot going on in this game, a lot of nonsense. It gets crazier, by the way. So, because the Sens fail the challenge, they are now shorthanded. Chicago goes to the power play. And guess what happens here? Stützle would get a breakaway shorthanded, and he would score. He would score shorthanded. So, Stützle scoring at the 8:02 mark of the second period, unassisted, shorthanded goal, and the Sens go up 2-1. I'm like, what is going on in this game, man? This is just insane, and we are nowhere near finished with this period. So the Sens are up 2-1. I'm like, okay, this is great. And then shortly after that goal, Jensen would end up high-sticking Doc off a face-off, so this would give Chicago a 5-on-3 power play for 36 seconds. So there was a shot that was stopped. I didn't put who the Chicago player was, but it was stopped, and then Bertuzzi was stopped on the rebound. Big save there by Marilainen. And then Burakovsky would have a shot. This would deflect off I believe it was a Sens player. I didn't put down who it was. And this would go in. A bit of a weird one here, a bit of a favorable bounce for Chicago, but it would go in. And I'm like, yep. So what can you do, right? So they do score on that power play. Burakovsky at the 9:55 mark of the second period. Green and Levshinov drawing the assist there, and we're tied at 2. So I'm like, yep, okay. Just the teams are going back and forth here. So shortly after that goal, Chicago would gain the zone, and they would get a shot that was stopped, and then another rebound was stopped. So this one could have easily been 3-2 Chicago here, but another big save by Marilainen. And I put in my notes, I know this is the negative side of me, but I felt at this point like the Sens were going to lose this because they just, they're 0 for 3 on the power play. Chicago just scored to tie it up. They lost Clevin for the rest of the game, so that doesn't help. I'm like, yeah, I thought they were going to lose this. It just kind of felt like one of those games. I know it's me being negative. I don't mind it. Anyways, so Doc would have a big hit on Halliday. So not long after that hit, Chicago would have a clear attempt that was knocked down by Chabot right at the line, very close to being offside. And then Chabot would find Tkachuk in the slot, and he would score. Now, this was funny, man. So, I'll talk about the goal first. So Tkachuk scores at the 14:07 mark, and Chabot drawing the assist. That is Tkachuk's 5th of the season. And I don't know if I mentioned this, but the goal by Stützle, that was his 16th of the season. So this goal, it's funny because, I didn't really think of it being offside at first, at real time, but I was watching the game with my dad, and he's like, oh, was it offside, though? And I'm like, oh, God, wait a minute. As a joke, I thought they were going to review this for offside. But it was close. I mean, he knocked it down right at the line. That it doesn't get challenged or anything, but it was close. So that goal does put the Sens up 3-2, and we're still in the second period, by the way. Just letting you know. So shortly after that goal, I'm making sure I'm at the right spot in my notes here. So shortly after that goal, Dylan Cousins would get in all alone, and the puck would roll off his stick here. He would never get a shot, but that was a good chance. And then Sanderson would make a strong play to the net. That was stopped by Soderblom. So then right here, there was, by the way, the Sens absolutely dominate the second period. Or not the second period. I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm thinking of the third period. Don't mind me. Again, a lot of stuff happened in this game. Just ignore what I said there. Anyways, there was a heck of an outlet pass here by Soderblom, the goalie. Kind of a bad change by Ottawa, but still, I do got to give credit to Soderblom for this pass. So Chicago would gain the zone, and they would score. So for the third time today, the Blackhawks come back to tie the game. So this goal was scored again by Mikheyev, his second of the game, and this goal was scored at the 18:32 mark of the second period, and this would tie the game at 3. So Donato and Moore drawing the assist there, and I'm like, my goodness, this is a wild game, dude. What is going on? So, and again, the play was a bit of a mess. It was a bad change by Ottawa, just guys were everywhere, not watching. I don't know what happened here, but Mikheyev, by the way, just here's a random fun stat. He has scored 9 goals in his last 11 games against Ottawa. So just there's always those teams that you do very well against, right? And for Mikheyev, I guess Ottawa is one of them. So the Sens would press at the end of the period. Stützle would end up getting pushed into Soderblom, and I'm like, even if the Sens did score here, I don't think it would have counted. It probably would have been goalie interference again if they scored. So, yeah, that's it for the second period. It was a 5-goal second period, and this was just wild. Like, just me reading off the notes doesn't do justice at all. It really doesn't. You would have had to watch this game because, like, there was just so much going on, especially in this period with all the reviews and the goals and man, oh man, just crazy. So the shots in that second period end up being 13-10 for Chicago. So we end the second period, we're tied 3-3, and I'm like, well, this could go either way, right? It's tied. It's very close. So we do roll on to the third period, and this is where the Sens absolutely dominate. So 31 seconds into the period, Chicago would take a roughing penalty. So then Giroux on the power play would make a nice saucer pass to Perron in the slot, and he would one-time this past Soderblom for the 4-3 lead on the power play. And Perron scores at the 1:45 mark of the third period, his 6th of the season from Giroux and Zetterlund, and we're up 4-3 early in the third period. So we are 2.5 minutes into the third period. The shots are 5-0 for Ottawa. I'm like, wow, this is impressive because like they got the lead now. They're not sitting back, and this is what you like to see. Like, I understand if you got a lead, you know, the tendency can be to sit back a little bit, but the Sens did not sit back in the third period at all. Like, I was very impressed by this. So, and I have this in my notes here, they came out flying in this period. So Soderblom would end up coming out to play the puck, and he kind of misplays it. It goes to Amadio. He would end up getting a shot here. That was stopped. Soderblom he made up for his mistake there, but that's ended up being a pretty good save by him. So Sens are continuing to press. There was a big hit by Lixell, or on Lixell, I should say. And then right after that hit, you know, it's like what they say, right? Taking a hit to make a play, and Lixell definitely does this here. Because this guy, number 18, Stützle will make a very nice pass between the legs to Perron again, and he would score again. So David Perron scoring his 2nd goal of the third period in the span of like 4 minutes, not even 4 minutes. So 5:31 into the third period, Perron has his 2nd of the game. Stützle and Lixell drawing the assist there, and the Sens are now up 5-3. So I'm like, my goodness, what a start to the third period here. This is very impressive. So I'm like, literally, I do talk to myself. I do talk out loud when I watch the games. Even if I am watching it by myself, I'll do it. Don't judge. It's okay. I judge myself all the time. But um, literally, as soon as I start thinking this is great, the Sens aren't sitting back, even though they're up by 2. As soon as I start thinking that, Chicago finally gets their first shot of the period, and it goes in. It's like, of course, right? So this goal was scored at the 7:17 mark of the third period. Nick Lardis scoring this one from Vlasic, and this would make it 5-4. So I'm like, even though the shots, Sens are absolutely dominating at this point, but they're only up by 1. So I'm like, okay, you can never get too comfy with a 1-goal lead, right? So shortly after that goal, Tkachuk would make a pass from behind the net to Giroux. This was a good save by Soderblom right here. And I got in my notes again, the Sens are continuing to press and play very well. Like, Chicago has nothing going on in this period here. So Ottawa does end up drawing a holding penalty by Chicago. So the Sens go back to the power play again. A lot of power plays, a lot of penalties today. So there was during this power play, there was a hit from behind on Halliday. I thought this could have been a penalty, but it wasn't. I wasn't complaining too much about it, though, because, like, you know, the Sens have been getting their fair share of chances, so I wasn't going to complain too much about it. So the Sens do get some zone time, but nothing to the net on this power play. The Blackhawks would end up killing it off. And then we would get a commercial break with 12:08 remaining in the third period. The shots are 13-2 in favor of Ottawa, and we have only played not even 8 minutes. I'm like, holy cow, this is impressive. So Amadio would have a partial break. He would never get a shot off here, and right around here, this is where the physicality really starts to ramp up for both teams. The hits 29-21, as you can see by the stats here, but yeah, the physicality, the emotion, definitely running a little bit high at this point. So then shortly after this, Amadio again would get another breakaway, but he would miss the net here. So I'm like, okay, a couple of good chances for Amadio in short succession. Is that the right word? Succession? I don't know. That's not the right word. I don't know what I'm trying to say. But anyways, 2 chances for Amadio close together. There you go. Words are hard, man. So Greg would find Zetterlund in the slot, and he would score. He would end up scoring. So Fabian Zetterlund scoring at the 16:10 mark of the third period from Greg, and this would make it 6-4, which ends up being your final. And yeah, this was a crazy game. What can I say? So then there were some slashes exchanged by both teams. This would lead to a scrum and some punches being thrown. Donato would end up having a pretty healthy slash on Zub. So I think Zub slashed him before he did that. So it's like, you know, just the retaliatory penalty. So again, the Sens would go to the power play yet again. But at this point, we're very close to the end of the game. So Spence would have a good look that was stopped. They don't score on this power play here, but it doesn't really matter. And Chicago does end up pulling Soderblom for the extra attacker, but nothing does come out of it, and that's kind of how the game ends. So the shots in that third period, listen to this. They were 18-3 for the Sens. Yeah, 18-3. Just, that's impressive, and it's so impressive because like I mentioned earlier, it can be very easy for a team to want to sit back with a lead, but the Sens did not sit back at all in this third period, and 18-3 the shots, man, like that's crazy. So ends up being a big win. Again, not the prettiest of all victories, but it's definitely one that you gotta have, right, if you're the Sens. So we will go through our 3 stars. So the first star of the game was, guess who? Number 18, Tim Stützle with a goal and 2 assists. Second star of the game was David Perron with 2 goals, both in the third period. And the third star of the game was Ilya Mikheyev. He also had 2 goals. And again, he's been kind of lighting up the Sens lately, so... Alright, we will now go through the box score. There's a lot of stuff to read off for this one. So our point getters for the forwards, as mentioned, Stützle with 1 goal and 2 assists. Zetterlund had a goal and an assist. Perron, as mentioned, had 2 goals. Tkachuk had a goal, and Lexell, Giroux, and Gregg all had 1 assist. And then on the defense, our point getters were Clevin with 1 goal and Chabot with 1 assist. And looking at the plus minus here, Spence and Sanderson were +2, and Zub and Clevin were +1. Jensen and Chabot were -1, but most guys were a plus, which is good. Plus minus for forwards is kind of all over the place. Wow. So, wow, this is actually kind of crazy. So Stützle was +4. Like, okay, that's amazing. Zetterlund +3. Then you got Tkachuk and Amadio at +1. And then you've got Gregg and Halliday -1, and Giroux was -2. So plus minuses are everywhere tonight. So leading the forwards in ice time was, oh, this is a bit of a change up. So Giroux led forwards in ice time with 20:32. Okay, that's different. And then leading the defenseman in ice time was Sanderson, 27:17. Of course, Chabot also had 26:37 in his first game back. Of course, they did lose Clevin pretty early on in the game. He only played 6:47, so yeah. I don't know how severe that injury was for Clevin. I hope he's okay. Hopefully he'll be back soon. So now we look at the shots, and wow, every defenseman had at least 1 shot. So Zub and Spence led the defense in shots with 3 each. And leading the forwards in shots was Tkachuk. They kept talking about this during the broadcast. Tkachuk had 9 shots tonight, and he did score, so that's crazy. So block shots for forwards, we got Tkachuk, Lexell, and Amadio all with 1. That's it for the forwards. And then leading the defense in block shots was Sanderson with 2. And for hits, we have Zub leading the defense with 2. And then leading the forwards in hits was Tkachuk and Nick Cousins with 4 each. And that's pretty much it for that. So looking at Marylinen's save percentage, he ends up having a rough one. Stops 20 out of 24 for an .833 save percentage. So yeah, I mean, you know, you probably want him to stop 1 or 2 of these if you're a Sens fan, but see, if your goalie is having maybe a bit of an off night, your team has to score, which they did tonight, so it doesn't end up hurting them. So yeah, I don't know how long this video is going to be. Well, we're not even at the end yet. Let's go ahead and finish it first. But yeah, this was a crazy game, crazy game tonight. And yeah, so the Sens are going to be right back at it again tomorrow night. It's going to be their first back-to-back in quite a while. I wanted to look this up. I guess I can look it up real quickly right here. It's been a while since they've had a back-to-back, though. So, looking at the schedule, I'm going back to last month. So it looks like their last back-to-back was November 8th and November 9th. They played the Flyers and the Mammoth, and they won both of those games. So yeah, it's been close to a month and a half since they played a back-to-back. So yes, they will be back at it again tomorrow night in Boston, Sunday, December 21st. This will be a 7:00 p.m. Eastern start time. So we'll see how that one goes. Boston has been playing pretty decently lately. They did lose their last game, though. So just looking at the standings here, Boston is 20-15, 6-4 in their last 10, 12-6 at home though, so that's a little scary. They're actually outside a playoff spot. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. And the Sens, meanwhile, are 17-13-4. They are now 4 back of the wildcard spot, but still close. They've won 3 in a row now, right? So just gotta keep it going. They got some momentum. And yeah, again, the standings are still very close, so they win a couple and you're right back in it. So even though the Sens, like, I still can't get over how insane the standings are. So like, they got 38 points. They are 6th in the wild card, but They are 2 points out of second in the division. Like, it's it's just insane. So, like, they're right there. And they have been playing very well lately, so we are going to hope this continues. And we got some big games coming up, so just kind of previewing the schedule a little bit here. So they've got 2 more games remaining before Christmas. So they're back at it again tomorrow in Boston, and then they'll play on Tuesday against the Sabres, and that'll be it before Christmas. But their next 3 opponents are all divisional opponents, so yeah, we got some big ones coming up. They're going to finally be playing against the Leafs next Saturday, so yeah, don't want to get ahead of myself, but anyways, yes, this was a crazy one, and I feel like me reading off the notes and talking about it doesn't really do justice because this game was absolutely psychotic today, and it was very, very enjoyable if you're a fan. Maybe not for the coaches so much, but I would say if you're a fan, yes, because there was a lot of stuff going on today. So that is pretty much it for this one. The Sens win by a final score of 6-4 over the Blackhawks. And again, this was the final meeting of the season between these two teams, and they combined for 20 goals in 2 games this season, which is just insane. And yeah, so the Sens have some momentum. They have won 3 in a row, and they'll be looking to make it 4 in a row tomorrow night in Boston. But I'm going to wrap it up here, guys. Thank you all so much for watching, and go Sens go.